하는 거 보잖아요. 근데 그 사람들이 뭐 여러분 보면서 와 동양 놈들 빵빵빵 막 쏘죠. 여기 그 미국의 무니라고 그래요. 무니. 아, 이 무니들이 미친 놈들하고 생겼더니.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Jen, this is Fundie Fridays, and here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism while I do my makeup. Today's episode topic was actually voted on by my lovely patrons, aka the official Fundie Fridays fan club. If you would also like the opportunity to vote on episode topics as well as gain access to exclusive videos, consider joining today. Links in the info box below. Today we are going to be talking about the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. Or maybe you know them by their nickname, the Moonies. The Moonies are a cult, new religious movement. This group was founded by Reverend Myung in 1954. The Moonies are located internationally with an emphasis on South Korea. If you haven't heard of this group, perhaps you've seen their mass weddings to total strangers. What about their conservative newspaper, the Washington Times? Maybe you've even watched the 1982 film Incheon, which was actually financed by Sun Myung Moon. Surely you've seen Moon's son and his AR-15 wielding Doomsday Church. Now I know you've seen their headquarters, the New Yorker Hotel. With branches in over 100 countries and an estimated 3 million members worldwide, the Unification-Church is still very relevant today and just as problematic as it ever has been. Seriously, we've got a lot to unpack here. The formal name of this group is the Unification-Church. The media and members themselves use this name as well. Moonies is actually a nickname that rose in popularity in the 70s. Even Reverend Sun Myung Moon used this name. However, in the 1980s and 1990s, the Unification-Church undertook an extensive PR campaign against the use of the word Moonie by the news media. And it is sometimes even considered insulting. However, I'm going to keep using the term Moonie because I'm lazy and fuck Sun Myung Moon. Y'all can keep marrying strangers and beating your wives. I'm gonna keep using the fun word. I love gold! Now, despite being a reformed K-pop stan, I cannot speak Korean, and when I try to, I sound like Peggy Hill in Mexico. So keep that in mind when I mispronounce things and try to be, kind to me. We cannot discuss this church without having a biography of its founder, self-appointed Reverend Sun Myung Moon. The entire belief structure of this church is based around the idea that he is the Messiah after all. Moon was born on January 6, 1920 in the village of Sangsari in current-day North Korea. Moon's family followed Confucianist beliefs until he was around 10 years old, and then they converted to Christianity and joined a Presbyterian church. Moon was actually a Sunday school teacher as a teen and has since been kicked out for heresy, and he deserved it. I know absolutely nothing about Confucianism, so if any of you do in the comments, please let me know if any of the beliefs that we're going to talk about today are similar to Confucianism, because that would be very interesting. When Moon was 15, on Easter Sunday, 1936, he had a vision where he met Jesus. Jesus appeared to him as he prayed in the hills and asked him to take on the work of building God's kingdom on earth. Moon reportedly refused at first, and then on a third time, Jesus said there was no one else who could do this work. From the comfort of his youthful ideals, he peered over the abyss of the difficulties that would lie ahead and decided, I will do it, he promised. Moon was instructed to finish Christ's unfinished work. He was also told that he needed to have the perfect marriage. I guess God wasn't specific on how many marriages though, so Moon acquired many wives, sometimes at the same time. Moon says that ever since the fall of man, God has been trying to rectify his creation, but he has not succeeded. He has worked through many chosen champions, but none of them found acceptance among men. Abel, Noah, Abraham, Jacob, Moses, David, and even Jesus Christ, they all failed. It was up to Moon to save the world. In 1946, the year that he began to organize what would later become the Unification-Church, he was arrested for anti-communism demonstrations. He was arrested a second time in 1948 and sentenced to 5 years of hard labor. During this time period, the Korean War broke out, so Moon escaped to what is now South Korea, and he avoided jail time. In 1954, Moon founded the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity in Seoul. Moon's first wife officially divorced him that year, and I can't imagine why, but talk about dodging a whole lot of bullets there. The Unification-Church identifies Moon as the next Messiah, who will implant God's heart of love into his followers and complete the unfinished work of Jesus Christ. They follow the Divine Principle, which is a book detailing Moon's personal interpretation and retelling of the Bible. He takes accepted and canonized stories from the Bible and he changes them significantly. The Divine Principle is a formula that God made, and it is the ultimate blueprint for creation. They use that word a lot. blueprint. The divine principle is true, it always has been, and it existed before creation. Principle is not doctrine, it is a formula. That's probably how they justify calling this Christianity, I guess, and I am using Christianity pretty loosely here. The main ideas of the divine principle are: God is all-powerful and all-knowing, but he has been humanized because he cannot be happy and complete without the reciprocal love of his children. God's original plan was that all men and women are to be sons and daughters of God, just as Jesus was God's son, i.e. divine but not God. If Adam and Eve had not fallen, all men and women would have been of the same perfection as Jesus, and that all men and women should become messiahs, i.e. persons who are in one mind and body with God. And all of God's providential work in history is to establish a God-centered family, and that the family is the foothold that will turn the world around. Hey, it's Jen from the future. If you're ever confused about the divine principle, don't worry. If you go to dplife.info, that's right, dplife.info, you can enjoy some Relias-style training programs that explain the divine principle in slideshows, flowcharts, anything you need.
Welcome to the DP Dojo, your online divine principle training ground. Just click on a video series, choose your video, and press play. You can train alone or with others. Or for when you're on the move, we've even included audio versions. We've included the key points so you can reference the main content of each video at a glance. Converse with others through the comment section, or reach out to a DP master for help in a specific area. Okay, let's begin our training.
In the Unification-Church, the Bible is seen as more of a suggestion, and it is not seen as sacred text. Instead, Moon wrote the first of his many textbooks, The Divine Principle, in 1957. The Divine Principle, however, does not encompass all of Moon's teachings. Important developments of unification theology have been Moon's less widely publicized but ongoing revelations that center around him and his immediate family, explaining the crucial role they play in the process of restoration. Restoration process? What's that?
The providence of restoration refers to God's work to restore the fallen people to their original unfallen state, so that they may fulfill the purpose of creation. Human beings fell from the top of the growth stage and have been held under Satan's dominion. To restore human beings, God works to cut off Satan's influence. For this, we must have the original sin removed. Hence, we fallen people first need to go through a course to separate Satan from ourselves, in order to restore ourselves in form to the top of the growth stage, which Adam and Eve had reached before the fall. On this foundation, we are to receive the Messiah and be reborn, thereby removing our original sin and becoming fully restored to the original state of human beings before the fall. Finally, by following the Messiah, we should continue our growth to maturity, where we can fulfill the purpose of creation.
Salvation is not really important to this group. It's really more about God's plan of restoration, which is to restore humans back to the state that they were before the fall, and that is accomplished by joining Moon's perfect family. And you do that through the blessing ceremony, of course. Besides being the ravings of a madman, the Divine Principle has glowing reviews. I don't know about you, but I don't join any religion that doesn't at least have 4.5 stars on Amazon. This book is very true, and it teaches you about Heavenly Father and why he does things. This teaches you what you should do to make Heavenly Father happy, and it teaches you why he created everything and their purposes. Sounds legit to me. Divine Principle divides time in 2,000-year increments. Jesus came 2,000 years after Abraham. The Lord of the Second Advent, which is Moon, came 2,000 years after that. In the Divine Principle, Adam, yes, that Adam, is kind of like James Bond. And by that I mean he's the same character, but he's played by different people. The first Adam, all of creation fell into sin. The sin in question being the non-marital fornication between Adam and Eve. And then also in a separate instance, Eve apparently also had sex with Satan. So yeah. The second Adam was Jesus Christ, and he failed to save humanity on 3 counts. 1, he died on the cross, which Moon says was a tragic accident. Yeah, what? Second, Jesus failed to marry and procreate children, and he failed to win the entire world. So, thus, we needed a third Adam, Sun Myung Moon, whose mission is to complete the work that Jesus did not finish. He wants to unite all religion and races of the world. In 1960, Moon married his wife, Hak Ja-han, who was 17 years old to his 40. Despite the age gap and the fact that she was one of his followers, likely meaning she was groomed, their marriage is regarded as the most perfect and holy, and it is basically the most important marriage in and all of humankind. Their wedding anniversary is called Parents' Day, and it is one of the most sacred holidays in the unification-church calendar. The Moons are regarded to be the true parents of humanity and are addressed by their followers as true mother and father. Mrs. Moon is also called the Bride of Christ and the Perfect Woman. She is seen within the movement as the mother of humankind and the final chosen of God. In unification services, members bow down in respect for Moon and Han when they are present, and to representative pictures of them when they're not around. I guess if you don't have fresh Messiah, store-bought is fine. Moon had 13 children with his wife, and it's a bit of an open secret that he also has many bastard children. The Holy Marriage Blessing Ceremony, the mass weddings, is a core ritual by in which couples are removed from the lineage of sinful humanity and engrafted into God's sinless lineage. Followers believe that they can help establish God's kingdom on earth by accepting the blessing of the marriage. And couples in the blessing ceremony are married to complete strangers. Sometimes they will meet beforehand, but that's still not enough time to really get to know somebody. Moon strives to match couples from different races and nationalities because of his belief that all of humanity should be united. International and intercultural marriages are the quickest way to bring about an ideal of world peace. People should marry across national and cultural boundaries with people from countries they consider to be their enemies, so that the world of peace can come that much more quickly. Oh, and they were still holding mass weddings during coronavirus. It's okay because some of them wore masks and some of them had their temperature taken.
애들이 이상하게 봐요. 굉장히 미친 짓 아니냐, 왜 그렇게 하냐, 너는 그런 사람이 좋냐, 두 번 만난 사람이 좋냐.
돌아가신 성화하실 때부터 7년 전부터 기획됐기 때문에 코로나 바이러스의 어려움이나 여러 가지 안 좋은 상황이 있지만 아주 성공적으로 그래도 행사가 진행되었다고 생각합니다.
그냥 열심히 돌아다녔어요. 손 잘 씻고 마스크 쓰고. 오늘은 모두에게 얼굴을 보여주기 위해 마스크는 안 착용했어요.
The traditional steps for completing the sanctity of the blessing ceremony are the following: the chastening ceremony, where the couples strike each other 3 times to symbolically make an end to sin and prepare for a new beginning. Holy wine ceremony, couples share a cup of holy wine or grape juice, symbolizing their engrafting into God's sinless lineage. The holy blessing ceremony, which is where they exchange vows. The couple is then sprinkled with holy water. Then there's the separation period, in which the couple refrains from having sexual relations for a period, mostly 40 days, in some cases longer, before consummating or reconsummating their marriage. And then there's the 3-day ceremony. The couple begins or re-begins their newly married life in a highly symbolic ceremony over 3 days, which is considered to reverse the fall of Adam and Eve. The vows that they have to exchange are to become a true man or woman who practices sexual purity and lives for the sake of others, become a true husband or wife who represents true parents' example and establishes an eternal family by which brings joy to God, to become a parent who educates his or her children to follow the tradition of true love for the sake of the family and world, and to create an ideal family which contributes to world peace. And does it surprise anybody to learn that the Unification Church is also homophobic? Moon often made wishful allusions to the genocide of homosexuals. Reverend Moon even said, "Sexual intercourse complication. Is the world around us a peaceful world centered upon God, or is it all confused? This is what is called free sex. What is the meaning of lesbians and homosexuals? That is the place where all different dungs collect. We have to end that behavior. When this kind of dirty relationship is taking place between human beings, God cannot be happy. This is what the secular world is like. As the Lord of all creation, are we seeking that kind of world? As human beings, we should mobilize our 40 billion cells and clean up those dirty places. Would you women want this dirty dung-filled water to be poured all over you?" What about men? Do you want to be soaked in that kind of dirty water? Only Satan and dirty dung-eating dogs go after that. As early as the 50s, missionaries began spreading the gospel of Moon all over the world. Moon's followers became notorious for selling flowers and candy on the street to raise money for the church. And for some reason, baby boomers just absolutely love joining these new religious movements. That's something that's becoming more apparent every time I do an episode that covers mid-century Christianity. Maybe someone should look into that. In 1971, Moon moved to the United States. In 1973, the Moons moved their headquarters to Tarrytown, New York, from which they operated an international network of businesses. By 1974, the church was ranking in $8 million a year from its various schemes and gimmicks. Moon took this money and invested it into a lot of businesses all over the world. Some examples of this include a shipbuilding firm, the Universal Ballet, cable TV networks, and a 50-state seafood operation. Don't worry, it's not Red Lobster. The Cheddar Bay biscuits are safe. He also began spending generously on political causes. Moon would go on to give a series of public speeches, including Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium, and even at the Washington Monument.
The Pilgrims sought religious freedom and the chance to do God's will. The Declaration of Independence acknowledged the protection of divine providence. Religious leader from Korea is bringing America a bicentennial event of the greatest significance. In 1974, Reverend Moon proclaimed the exciting message of God's hope for mankind. More than 40,000 people crowded Madison Square Garden. Reverend Moon praised deeply. And now God's plan for America is to be revealed by Reverend Moon at the bicentennial God Bless America Festival.
The Moons and their inner circle lived lavishly, and their children were notorious hellions. They had a bowling alley on their property, 6 pizza ovens, sports cars, purebred horses, weapons, and a waterfall in the dining room. Moon expected his followers to do the work of raising his kids, but they couldn't punish them. That's the Messiah's kid. Like, what are you going to do? Kids ran wild, and when they got a little older, started doing drugs. The 70s had its fair share of cults, but there was just as big of an effort from the anti-cult groups to keep it in check. Concerned groups started taking note of the Unification-Church and their abusive practices and brainwashing techniques. Former Moonie Stephen Hassan describes the conditions he worked in as a member. I was with the Moonies for 2.5 years. I worked 21 hours a day, 7 days a week, in prayer for between 1 and 3 hours. Then I would spend the rest of the day doing PR or lectures for the group, recruiting and fundraising. Everyone on my team was told they had to raise a minimum of $100 a day, otherwise they wouldn't be allowed to sleep. And as a good leader, if they couldn't sleep, then I couldn't either. When I crashed a van into the back of a tractor trailer, I had gone 3 days without sleep. They gave me tapes of Moon's speeches to listen to in hospital when I was recovering from the crash, but you can only do that for so many hours in the day. Hassan is now a psychologist, and he works to help people deprogram from cults. Also the founder of Freedom of Mind Resource Center and has given several TED Talks. In 1978, a congressional subcommittee issued a report that included the results of its investigation into the Unification-Church. Among its other conclusions, the subcommittee's report stated that among the goals of the Moon organization is the establishment of a worldwide government in which the separation of church and state would be abolished and which would be governed by Moon and his followers. This dude is really out here trying to create a new world order. I swear everyone is always trying to rebook this angle. In 1981, the Unification-Church's bid for U.S. tax-exempt status as a religious organization was denied when the appellate court ruled that the church's primary purpose was political rather than religious. In 1982, Moon was convicted of tax evasion, sentenced to 18 months in prison, and fined $25,000. He began serving his term in 1984. His followers, as well as many non-unification religious leaders, regarded the trial as religious persecution by the government. Having survived this period of intense criticism, the Unification-Church emerged in the 1990s with an expansive international program. This time, Moon also announced that his successor would be his wife. How nice of him. I wish James would give me a total control of an international cult for our anniversary. Or a switch. Either way. In 1994, on the 40th anniversary of the founding of the church, Moon announced the formation of the International Federation for World Peace, which assumed many of the functions formerly performed by the church. Here's a trailer for the group that I swear looks like every ARG I've ever seen.
We all have an original mind that yearns for beauty, truth, and happiness. We want to be good people, able to raise beautiful families where all relationships of true love can blossom. Strong families are the building block of a healthy community, where each person can work together to create a peaceful and prosperous world. We are the Family Federation. Join us for world peace and unification.
In the late 80s, oldest son and golden boy Hyojin Moon was allegedly, but most likely, doing drugs and party rocking. To reel him in, Reverend Moon assigned his son a 15-year-old Moonie bride named Nansook Hong. Nansook Hong would later recall that True Mother told her that she was brought to America to reform her son, and that if she failed, she would be failing God. All this was happening while Nansook was still in high school and had just recently begun learning English. Unfortunately, life for the newlyweds was anything but heaven. Hyojin Moon turned out to be a cheating, abusive drunk, so what was she to do? She left his ass and wrote a tell-all.
Nansook Hong, author of In the Shadow of the Moons. What's this book all about?
This is a story of my life since I was born in the church. We call it the unification-church. And I grew up, my parents were the members of the church, and I grew up in that church. I was married to Reverend Moon's eldest son when I was 15. And I lived with Reverend Moon's family for 14 years. And I left. I leave the church. That means to the members of the church that we become Satan. That's what it means. The members see themselves as the chosen people by God, and once you leave the church, you go to the realm of Satan. And that sense, since me and my children left, we become the fallen people. And that's main reason that still the church trying to get me and my children to come back.
How did you get involved in the family? Why did you marry Reverend Moon's oldest son?
I was chosen. It was my decision. I was 15. What I heard is that Reverend Moon and Mrs. Moon did consult a Buddhist lady who was supposed to be the one who is spiritual. We call it spiritual lady. And she, I think, saw my fortune and thought that my fortune would be good with Hyojin's. So I was chosen to be Hyojin's bride.
You also write on page 72, 73 that as the years went on, I came to believe that my youth, and you said you were 15 at the time, and my naivete were the central reasons for my selection. His ideal wife was a girl young and passive enough to submit while he molded her into the woman that he wanted. Time would prove that I was young, but not nearly passive enough.
Because I broke out of there, I suppose. Mrs. Moon also was married when she was 16, and Reverend Moon was 40. And I was 15, and I heard from Reverend Moon many times that he had to choose this 15 and 16 years old. And he said it was providential. That means it was given by God. But my inclination is that it was easy to influence if a wife or a daughter-in-law is young. And basically what I had to do, and also Mrs. Moon had to do, is to obey, to do what we were told to do. And I think she did that for the longest time. And I did that for 14 years. And just one day I decided that it wasn't going to be the case anymore. And I rebelled.
Did he abuse you physically?
Reverend Moon?
No, his son.
Hyojin. Oh, yes. He was verbally abusive, at the same time physically abusive as well.
Again, going back to the early part of the book, you say that he beat me so severely that I thought he would kill the baby in my womb. He made me sweep up the spilled white powder, cocaine, from the bathroom floor, even as he continued to punch me. Later, he would offer a religious justification for beating me half senseless, a woman 7 months pregnant. He was teaching me to be humble in the presence of the Son of the Messiah.
Isn't it awful? The incident happened after he came back from his nightclub routine with his brother-in-law. And Hyojin and Jin-sung, his brother-in-law, were doing cocaine in our master bedroom. And against my better judgment, I did went and talked to him I wanted to say that there are 4 children. I was pregnant with 5th one, and I said, you can't really do the, we can't have life like this anymore. You gotta take care of the kids, and you have to be more responsible. And what I did was I took the cocaine that he had, and I went to the bathroom to flush it, and that's when he came after me and started punching me. And one fear that I had was that he was going to harm the baby. He kept saying he was going to kill the baby. He was very upset at me, and I was afraid he was going to punch the baby that I was carrying. I was 7 months and I was pretty big. And he kept punching me. There was blood. He licked the blood, said it tastes good. And it was just horrible. He was very violent, volatile person to start with, and with his drinking problem and his cocaine addiction, it just became unbearable.
What were you thinking at the time?
Only thing I was thinking was that I have to save this baby, and so I kept quiet and hoped that he would stop, but he kept going on for a while. And his brother-in-law later on, well, him and Hyojin, they were laughing at the fact that Hyojin was punching me, and that was not a nice thing.
Moon has always had a weird entanglement with politics. Originally a staunch anti-communist, he relaxed his views and actually became very friendly with the late North Korean dictator Kim Il-sung. Moon branded himself a peace-loving global citizen, and many politicians unknowingly endorsed him in various bizarre circumstances. Let me explain. In 1974, Moon asked church members in the United States to support President Nixon during the Watergate scandal. Church members prayed and fasted in support for Nixon for 3 days in front of the United States Capitol under the motto, "Forgive, Love, and Unite." On February 1st, 1974, Nixon publicly thanked them for their support. In 1993, Bill Clinton established Parents' Day, which, you guessed it, is affiliated with True Parents' Day, which is weird. In 2004, Moon held a coronation ceremony in an office building of the U.S. Senate in which he was crowned King of Peace by Representative Danny K. Davis of Illinois. Davis told The Guardian, "It was a banquet to give out awards. It was an innocent ceremony. Didn't have any way of knowing Reverend Moon would say he was the Messiah or whatever he said. Said they had been fooled into going." A spokeswoman for the senator said, "We fell victim to it. We were duped." Moon told his audience, "The 5 great saints and other leaders in the spirit world, including communist leaders such as Marx and Lenin, who committed all manner of barbarity, and dictators such as Hitler and Stalin, have found strength in my teachings, mended their ways, and have become reborn as new persons." Moon gave a speech and said, "Emperors, kings, and presidents have declared to all heaven and earth that Reverend Sun Myung Moon is none other than humanity's savior, messiah, returning lord, and true parent." So the Washington Times is a conservative newspaper that was founded by Moon in 1982. Their information is proudly biased, and they spread conspiracy theories as fact. There is a laundry list of controversies surrounding this group, including racism and Islamophobia. However, some people would call this magazine a champion of freedom, faith, and family values.
The American people know the truth. You, my friends at the Washington Times, have told it to them. Oh yes, we won the Cold War.
Moon died on September 3rd, 2012 from complications of pneumonia.
Tens of thousands came to pay their respects to a self-proclaimed messiah Saturday. The red and gold coffin of Reverend Sun Myung Moon was laid in front of a huge portrait of the founder of the Unification-Church. His youngest son and successor, Hyun-Chin Moon, gave a eulogy to his father.
마침내 참아버님께서는
Finally, he said, our true father announced that he'd accomplished God's will. He's completed all the holy tasks given to him by God. Moon died earlier this month, aged 92, after being admitted to hospital for pneumonia. The funeral follows 2 weeks of official mourning. An estimated 180,000 people visited the mortuary where his body was laid, according to the church. Moon's son and successor travelled to Pyongyang last week to accept condolences from Chan Son-taek, the uncle of the current leader Kim Jong-un. Moon also built up a substantial business empire for his church. Critics accused him of lining his pockets, which he denied, although he did serve 11 months in a US federal prison for tax evasion. Moon was also accused of being a cult leader and of breaking up families.
But fear not, the Unification Church will continue to be in good shape even after son Myung Moon's death, said a teacher at the Busan Presbyterian University. The Unification Church is not simply a religious organization, but is a commercial organization built on religious conviction. It's a commercial organization? Interesting. There have been whispers in the wind of the unification movement falling apart. Years of infighting between the children, waning membership numbers, and the question of what to do with all that money has likely taken a toll on the stability of the organization. Attempts to keep the church hip and fresh include relaxing the requirements for the blessing ceremony and having guitar hero parties. True Mother Hakjahan Moon remains the leader, I guess, of the Unification Church, and since she was so much younger than Reverend Moon, she's presumably got a few decades left to do just Messiah things.
Hello, bitches.
She also started the Women's Federation for World Peace, so thanks. Son Kookjin Moon is now the head of the Tongil Foundation, which is the business arm of the Moonie Empire. Hyojin Moon, the shitty son who terrorized Nansook Hong, well, he died in 2008. Good riddance. As for the youngest son, Hyungjin Moon, otherwise known as Pastor Sean, well, he was handpicked to be the spiritual successor of the church. However, he began having theological and probably personal differences with his mother, Hakjahan. So he was fired/quit, and that's how he started the World Peace Unification Sanctuary Church in Newfoundland, Pennsylvania. He is an outspoken conservative and rageaholic. Here he is storming a unification meeting in Brazil, kicking the pastor out, and then proceeds to beat him.
Footage taken in May 2010 shows Hyunjin's supporters cheering as he marches into a branch of the Unification Church in Sao Paulo, Brazil. His men then physically remove the Korean preacher, Reverend Shin Dong-mo.
Is it your agenda to isolate me from the unification community? And Shin Dong-mo!
The following day, Reverend Shin is humiliated before members of the congregation.
너 조그만 녀석이 그렇게 큰 머리 있어 내가 기가 막혔어. 너 편집이고 보니까 바보 같은 녀석.
Reverend Shin is accused of scheming with Hyunjin's brothers.
이제 이 시대는 너희들이 이 거짓말 뒤에서 못 숨길 거야. 예, 그렇습니다. 너 국진이하고 형진이한테 그것도 말해줘. 말해줘!
At Pastor Sean's church, they have fetishized the Second Amendment, and they regularly incorporate guns into their worship services. They believe that the rod of iron spoken in Revelation 19:15 is a gun. Local Republicans love this church, and many of them don't even know what a Moonie is. They just see guns on a flyer and show up. Seriously. Sanctuary Church's first ever Rod of Iron Freedom Festival not only attracted Moonies from overseas who flew in, but how do I say this nicely? The MAGA demographic? To be fair, who wouldn't enjoy the open carry and blueberry pancakes? Fuck apple pie, that's the most American shit I can think of. In 2008, Reverend Sean's church garnered media attention when they held a marriage vow renewal ceremony in which members were encouraged to bring their AR-15s and bullet crowns. The group was criticized for having bad taste and holding this event so shortly after the Parkland shooting. In fact, the nearby elementary school sent students home for the day because of Moon's group being so sketchy. In 2019, the church held a blessing ceremony for the group's guns. Gotta bless the guns. Can't worship true father if your gun isn't blessed!
This broke me.
In conclusion, as the first Christian cult founded in Southeast Asia that I've covered, I couldn't help but notice a more significant tilt towards collectivist mentality. American cults seem to represent the American ideal of individualism. Separate yourself from evil society at large, for we are the only ones that know the truth. In contrast, Moon wants to unite the world under a single race, religion, and government. He takes active steps to envelop all people into a single cooperative culture. He takes active steps to demonstrate conformity and to ally himself with powerful political leaders. There's nothing rebellious about Moon. If anything, his cult worships conformity. So that's pretty interesting. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I obviously couldn't include everything. I learned so much. The lore is definitely really dense, and I even had to remove some things because it was just getting long-winded. But I first found out about this group. There were some college kids with signs around town that were advertising the group, and I can see how it would be very easy to be tricked into joining because they do use the same kind of flowery language that the Bible does. So if you weren't paying attention, you might be easily persuaded into that. It honestly reminds me a lot of like the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Book of Mormon, where it sounds kind of Christian, so it seems legit, but upon further inspection, it falls apart. The next Funny Fridays episode will be out in December, and it is actually going to be a remake of my Tammy Faye Baker video, but I'm going to talk about Jim and Jay and the sister a little bit. I can't even remember her name. That's how little she's going to be in the video. If you would like to support me financially, go ahead and follow me on Patreon, Instagram for the memes, Discord for the Fundie snark. I'm dipping my toes in the water of TikTok, so you might see me there too. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you stayed safe. And I love you. Remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button, and have a great day.